p.m. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Yes. We're using a new system tonight, so this is the first time, so it's a little different. Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Here.
Hodge.
Here.
Indesato.
Here.
Locke.
Here.
Stoops.
Here.
Drummond.
Here. Mr. Stoops, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Dr. Hitchens, do we have any changes to tonight's agenda?
There are a few changes. The 5.5 student ambassador comments, they are taking advantage of the day off of school. They're not here. As well as 6.1, so we're deleting 5.5. We're deleting 6.1, which was Jake Livingston. We were going to celebrate success with Jake Livingston. He will be joining us next month instead.
Excellent.
And then 7.11, which was act on closed session. There will be no action on the closed session, so we will remove that.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda with those changes?
Second.
Wait. Sorry.
That's all right.
Blakely.
Say that. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
We have to make a motion. We do have a motion. Hold on. All right, who went first?
Blakely made the motion and Gaspar second.
Okay, all right, so that's good. Take a vote, okay?
All
All
in
right,
favor?
here we go.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The agenda is approved.
All right, so now this goes to... I'm palpitating.
It's okay.
Okay.
Actually, what's nice is I was struggling too, so now it just looks like Kathy's struggling and not me. She's got my back. Okay, are you ready to move on to public?
I am.
Okay, I'll read my disclaimer first, and that will give you a minute to catch up. Next, we're going to move on to public comments. If anyone wishes to address the board this evening under public comments, please see our recording secretary, Kathy Scafidi. She'll give you a pink form that has our board policy for addressing the board. Please put your full name and address on the form, as we are required by state law to keep a detailed set of minutes for our meetings. If you would prefer to provide comments for the entire board in written form, there's a blue form that Kathy can give you. When you address the Board of Education or Administration will not enter into dialogue on an issue. It doesn't mean we don't take your matter seriously, but if you have unanswered questions, either a board member or an administrator will get back to recording the matter at a later date. And if you have any props or visuals you'd like to use, please have those reviewed by Dr. Hitchens, who is our board elected secretary, prior to you speaking. We ask everyone that addresses the board to please come forward to the table so that we can all hear you. And Kathy, do we have all the pink sheets tonight? No one would like to address the board. We did have one email from Ms. Gustafson. If you don't mind just filling out a pink sheet after you speak, that would be great, just so we have a record that you spoke, but we'd like to invite you forward.
Hello again.
Good evening.
My name is the same as it was last month. My name is Rose Gustafson, and I live at 471 Kickapoo Avenue in Batavia. I spoke to you last month as part of a tremendous grassroots effort called Lower the Levy. Within 1 month's time, countless residents got involved with the local movement. We appealed to you to lower the tax levy by $6 million due to the money that will soon arrive into the school district's coffers from Aurora's expired Premium Outlet Mall TIF district. 100 citizens posted yard signs. More than 125 residents sent emails. And a bunch of people, including me, were even brave enough to speak at the board meeting. We were disappointed when it seemed like you weren't listening to us. I still wonder why you didn't vote to lower the levy, but I understand that the administration had apparently been planning for years to grab the TIF money as soon as it would be available. And some of it was already budgeted and spent before it even got deposited, it hasn't yet, into the school district's account this spring. As you look forward to receiving the mall's big tax dollars in years to come, please earmark the money to specifically pay down the district's debt. Tonight, I have good news to share with the board and with the community watching on BATV. There is likely more money on the way that could lower the tremendous tax burden for all Batavia property owners. In the January-February issue of Batavia Magazine, Mayor Jeff Schilke wrote, quote, "The recent annexation of the Mooseheart Farm properties south of Main Street and extending down along Randall Road to Mooseheart and Orchard Roads will offer us a rare opportunity to create additional tax base and further new job-creating activities. In addition to the new retail in future years, the Mooseheart development approval calls for the creation of over 800 new senior restricted living units, which will not be sending any additional new students into our local schools," unquote. Isn't that great? As proposed, there will be an increase in tax revenue without adding any students into the Batavia School District. How wonderful, how encouraging. So on this 28th day of January in 2014, we Batavia taxpayers stake a claim to those future tax dollars and request that no plans be made to appropriate those funds. The area is still farmland, so there is plenty of time for the administration and board, both now and in years to come, to consider rightfully giving those future tax dollars back to the property owners in Batavia when the development becomes a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to move on to our PTO representatives. I understand we have people from Hooverwood here tonight to speak to us. Welcome. We're very friendly.
So hi, I'm Melanie Murphy, and this is Allison Cooper, and we are the co-presidents of the Hooverwood PTO. We're here tonight just to tell you about some of the things we've been able to do for the school, thanks to our generous Hooverwood families. We're fortunate to be able to work with a budget of about $32,000, those funds coming from various fundraisers throughout the year. We like to give our families multiple fundraising choices so they can choose what works best for their family. Some of our annual fundraisers are 2 book fairs, family movie nights, gift wrap sale, our annual mum sale, and Artsonia artwork. In addition, we have our silent fundraisers, which are things parents can do outside of school to help raise money for the PTO. These fundraisers are things like collecting box tops, buying spiritware, restaurant nights, market day, Fundico, where you can purchase at Amazon and a percentage of your purchase comes back to the school, and other store loyalty programs like Target. Because our families participate in all those things, we're able to provide fun events for our students and some financial assistance for our teachers and staff. We're proud of our ballroom dance program, where our primary grade students learn square dancing steps and our older students learn some classic ballroom dance steps. We also have an ice cream social to start off the year, an annual family read program, read posters as a reward for the students who meet their AR testing goals. We fund part of the upkeep of that AR testing program. We set aside funds for retiree recognition. We maintain a student help fund for students who can't afford to pay for field trips. We have another student help fund for snack supplies for students who don't bring snacks from home. We have numerous staff appreciation events. We maintain a teacher supply account so we can reimburse teachers for some of their supplies during the year. We participate in National Walk to School Day, and we have our own Hawk Walk. And finally, at the end of the year, we buy banners for our graduating 5th grade students.
And those are all the things that we have scheduled from year to year. At the beginning of the school year, we had a special movie night for the Pecoraro family. This included a free movie, concessions, and a silent auction. With the support of our community, we were able to raise about $2,300 for the family. Megan Pecoraro was a social worker at Hooverwood before she accepted a position at the high school. And late last summer, her husband died suddenly, and we wanted to do something to help support them. There are always more opportunities to spend money that seem to arise, and recently we were able to purchase a mascot for our school, a Howie the Hawk costume. And he's visited with our students on several occasions. A dad at our school started the Watchdogs program, and we will add support for that into our next budget. For our community, we were able to provide funds to the early childhood program that's housed at AGS, and everyone is welcome at our fun fair, which is coming up on February 28th. All of these events would not be possible without the generous support of our Hooverwood School parents, both financially and voluntarily.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I wanted to make notes what you were doing so I could take it back to my school. Would anyone from BESPA like to address the board tonight? I don't know if the whole board knows you, so if you don't mind introducing yourselves.
My name's Joe Fricaro, and I'm the union president for BESPA. And apparently, it's been 30 years, but we've reached fair share. So we're really happy.
My name's Tim Beckers. I'm the secretary.
Welcome. Congratulations. We were excited when you heard that. It's a great effort.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Long story, explain later. And now we'd like to invite Tony Millay forward. Oh, you were right there, Tony. I'm sorry. Looking way back there.
Early enough to get a back row seat. Just a few things. First of all, I'd like to congratulate our brothers and sisters in VESPA. I'm very proud of what they've accomplished here. They've increased their membership. I believe at the beginning of the year was 38 members, and now the last count I heard was like 94.
Well, they're
23. Which is incredible. Just a quick little bit of history. A number of years ago, about 9 years ago, we made an attempt to go wall to wall, which would be to merge the two unions. We currently are in the same union. They are an IEA local, just as we are. So they are our brothers and sisters. And we had tried to merge the two together. That required a vote of our members. Our members weren't in support of that because there were so few members of those eligible in VESPA. Now that they've increased the majority of those eligible, in fact a super majority now of those eligible, giving them fair share, I think is a good thing for Batavia. They do a tremendous, between the pairs, the secretaries, maintenance, I'm sure I'm leaving some groups out, do incredible things to make Batavia the great schools that it is. So I'm very proud of them. Good job, guys. Next thing, you probably heard in the news, there was a lawsuit, which we all knew was coming, was filed today, contesting Senate Bill 1, which was the pension theft bill that was passed back earlier last year. We believe that that was done unconstitutionally, and the courts will be deciding that at this time. Unfortunately, we've taken, I believe, the damage is being done with that bill that will be found unconstitutional, as it is, destroys the confidence that is shown in the teachers in the state of Illinois, and plays into the psyche of the educators that work very hard and devalues them. So hopefully this can be resolved in a solution to the crisis can be, which we did propose a solution which was not even voted on. So hopefully we can have some leadership with that, would listen to the people and actually take some votes and not play a political game. The next thing, the Joint Professional Appraisal Committee continues to meet. In fact, we were supposed to meet today again for our monthly meeting, but the weather didn't cooperate, so we'll be rescheduling that. There has been a work group that's been attending CEC compacts. I think you finished 4 of them now. Amy, being Carrie, and Liz McAlpin have been going with Brad, Steve, Mark, Kevin Scomer, Mark Anderson, Kevin Scomer. There is a daunting task ahead of us with the student growth requirement that's coming in 2016, which will require a minimum of 30% of our evaluations be based on student growth measures. And determining what those measures are is going to be a lot of work ahead of us, but we're confident we'll be able to jointly address that. And the last thing is our team for negotiation has started preparations next Wednesday, I believe. We're having joint interest-based bargaining training with our brothers and sisters in VESPA administration, and we'll be good to get the bands back together. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony.
Party started.
Next, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a method of streamlining our meetings by taking one vote on a number of routine personnel and business items. Each of the items has been detailed in the agenda and posted on board docs.
Tony.
Okay, Mr. Lacy, could you please read the consent agenda?
Certainly. I'll summarize. The consent agenda includes in item 7.1, the meeting minutes from the last month of committees and the meetings of the Board of Education. Item 7.2 is personnel. It includes hires, resignation, and leaves of absence. 7.3 includes the routine financial items. 7.4 includes the treasurer's report for the month of December. 7.5 includes a donation to Rotolo Middle School, an anonymous donation in the amount of $2,000. Item 7.6, FOIA requests for the prior month. Those responses that were provided to citizens. Item 7.7 includes a contract for Graphic Edge and uniforms for Batavia High School. 7.8 is the disposal of surplus property for technology. Item 7.9 is the approval of an overnight field trip for Key Club. And item 7.10 is the approval of new courses for Batavia High School that include Project Lead the Way, Civil Engineering, Architecture, and AP Physics.
Thank you, Tony. We've already removed 7.11, our closed session, item. Are there any other items on the consent agenda for removal or for clarification? No other item? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. Okay, moved by Stoop, second by Locke. Any discussion? Questions?
Just comment?
Comment?
I just want to actually thank and congratulate in the item on the contract relating to the uniforms and the Booster Club. I want to congratulate them and thank them for their continued support that they are able to, through their fundraising efforts, contribute basically all the monies for the uniforms that our student athletes are able to wear. And as an example, if you've gone to any events, they're well kept. The program is set and it's been in its works for a number of years, in which they're able to change the uniforms out about every 3 years, so that you don't see the lower level classes or freshman teams and they're wearing some uniform that's been out there for 30-some years and the letters are falling off. They're still relatively good shape. They've been handed down. So that's an effort that's been going on for quite a while, and I kind of take a personal feel about that. So it's a great effort, and I want to just thank them for the continued support.
Anything else on the consent agenda? All right, then Kathy, can you please call the roll?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep, do that, hold on. Students will take a vote. Voila. Okay. Blakely.
Yep.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Rock.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. All right, consent agenda passes. Item 8 is for discussion and information purposes only. Mr. Brown, would you like to join us to talk about the capital improvement plan?
Good evening, everyone. Tony, one moment there to pull up the PowerPoint presentation of included in the board box.
That's the text.
I'm not prepared to talk about that.
Yay.
Why not?
One of my roles is to annually report on the condition of and provide a need assessment for the buildings and grounds throughout the district. Within your board docs, there is a comprehensive report that reviews what the current needs assessment is throughout the district. This is not a funding report, but simply a report that tells you what is it that we see at this particular snapshot in time as the needs for the facilities within the district. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Tony. So what I have done tonight with the PowerPoint presentation is not to reread back to you what the report says, but simply to use this PowerPoint presentation to summarize some of the key points that are within that comprehensive report. We will make that comprehensive report available online so that it's fine within the website tomorrow. We've posted past capital improvement reports there as well. As you can see right now on the board, the current funding that we need for projects broke down across all the schools and grounds is a little over $18 million. That report that I provided to you analyzes the needs for our sites, which is comprised of the parking lots, walkways, athletic facilities, things of that nature for general ground type needs. It also looks at our building envelopes, which is your roofs, your exterior walls, windows, doors, anything that really encapsulates the school itself and keeps the elements outside. Your building interior, that is the ceiling finishes, floor finishes, wall finishes that make up the guts of the interior of the building. And then building systems, that's looking at the major things like mechanical systems, plumbing systems, electrical systems. And within the report, each of those is broken down to give you an analysis of how each of those are classified.
Before you move on, because you know we like to ask questions as we go along, one of the things that I should have clarified today at policy, but I did, or at finance, that I did not, is for BHS, the 2014-15 column has the athletic fields just because it's something we've identified and approved a plan for. But for the shop, you didn't put that out till 2019-24. How did you decide which column to put stuff in?
Great question. Because we are actively pursuing improvements within the athletic field needs, and there are areas that we have identified are an immediate need, I simply put...
You just didn't break it out?
There.
Okay.
And the shop is an interesting one because this is really the first time we're having a conversation about the need. And I wanted to break out the numbers in a way that we could look at what the immediate need is that would bring us up to code requirements, but then also look at separating the numbers for what long-term needs would be for replacing the building, acquiring a new site, things like that.
Okay, I just am imagining someone looking at that having a heart attack because they're like, that athletic field in 2014-15.
Yes.
And again, when I saw that over there, I just wanted to clarify that I understood why you were putting things where you were, but that makes sense.
And this does provide, I guess, some sticker shock from the standpoint that it lumps everything together. When you get further into the presentation here, we'll talk about how we prioritized elements of the different pieces that we're saying we need within the district and break that out in a little bit more detail. On this slide, though, one of the things I do want to point out is that while we are saying we have $18.6 million of need that we believe is here and now, I also show and project out what some of the needs are we believe moving towards us as each year comes towards us. A lot of that is based upon life cycle modeling of our equipment. Some of that is, actually, the majority of that is from life cycle modeling. Some of that might also be other mandates or things that we know are coming down the pipeline. So we just like to show that we do have other needs that are out there with this slide, and that is moving towards us. So if you look at like the 2016-17 school year, we're projecting that another $2.9 million roughly is something that we will have added. So when we get to the fiscal year, we would expect that things might have grown a little bit at that point in time.
Pat, before you go on, I guess the question again that this afternoon should I ask too. If things are not, use the high school one for an example, since it's the large number and it's division and all that. If it's not used next year, you're going to put that same amount or that amount into the next.
That is.
So anything that's not there is going to go to the next column, and so on, even though it might be a low priority and so on.
Absolutely. Actually,
okay.
Tony, if you would flip to the next slide, please. So showing the trend of our facility needs, basically what you're referring to, John, is deferred maintenance. So when we do not provide funding or take care of a particular issue, we consider it as deferred and it moves into the next fiscal year. This this slide I use just to represent the fact that that trend, we did not provide funding for a number of years to equal what the amount of work was coming our way. So you can see that from the 2010-11 year up to last year, it was a growing trend of
Pat, I'm going to stop you for a second because I'm seeing everybody down here. On your 14, 15, and I had talked to Greg about this on Saturday. That big box is on 10, 11, and I just showed it to Tony and Chris. So
This is coming right out of board docs.
yeah, so I.
What are you looking at?
It's something
Mine's
with the
different than
iPad,
yours.
because I actually downloaded the PowerPoint presentation to my iPad, and I was actually looking at the two between my desktop computer and the iPad. The iPad, for some reason, is throwing it in the wrong spot.
That's what I was saying this afternoon because I thought I was seeing things.
Okay, I see what you were talking about, and I was like, no.
But then I went to something else later on over the weekend.
disappeared.
And it was in 14, 15, and it was like, I'm confused.
We like to say in operations, we like tech. So,
Okay, I
What's on the screen
understand.
is accurate.
what is on the screen is accurate.
You're right, okay.
Pay no attention to the little screen.
But I think that's what I did this
Screen over
afternoon.
here. That's all
Okay,
good.
so can I just
How did I
clarify
get this
too?
tonight?
I guess looking at this, one of the things that strikes me, and correct me if I'm wrong, up to now, it's all been maintenance and non-fun projects and no forward-thinking additions. So I think that's the difficulty too with that athletic plan. We put it in our plan, there are things that we're looking at how we can fund it. So the orange really is our needs.
Correct.
And then the maroon is we have, right, wants. That's a good way to describe it.
Needs and wants.
And so I guess that's a good way for us to clarify when I'm looking at it. I like the fact that you pointed out that our needs trend is going down because we're actually now spending some money to maintain our building.
And to give you an idea, because it's not as easy to tell when you look at that particular table, but the actual needs has decreased by about $900,000. If you consider last year, the board authorized $1.1 million for capital improvements, you can see that it actually was beneficial. It did help us to make some ground up in making sure that we were able to do some of the improvements that were needed in the schools. And obviously that red portion there, that represents $11,900,000 for the athletic fields. Basically, that's the same number that I presented to you when we talked about what the cost of the athletic field was a few months ago. That excludes the cost that was put in there for the maintenance shop, essentially. So that's the number that we separated out of there. Since we are now, if you look at the differences between the two reports, we are now separately reporting on the maintenance shop itself, spending a little bit more time actually writing that report than lumping it in as a Batavia High School facility, so for part of that facility. Have the next slide, please. I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about the prioritization of the needs that we have within the capital improvement plan. You can see that we rank that in multiple categories. We have high, medium, low. We also have life safety, and we have scheduled work. And one of the things that I think is really important to point out is that what we consider to be work that is essential for the operation of the school or for us to be able to maintain functioning classrooms and learning environments that we would expect in Batavia, we need about $3.2 million. And then as you move down the list, you get into items that are less important. You can see the bulk of that low number, $11 million, that is mostly the athletic field redevelopment numbers that are in there. So we're not saying that those are needs that we have that are pressing. Life safety represents the 10-year life safety survey that we are required to complete. We have done 3 of the buildings so far. We will finish the balance of those this summer, have a full comprehensive report and file that with the state. Once that happens, we have obligations that I'll report on at a later date as far as what work is to be completed. But you can see that right now that's a value of about $308,000 between the 3 schools, one of those schools being the high school. So it does represent a very large chunk of the total square footage that we have within the district. One of the things to talk about is the schedule category that is up there. We use life cycle modeling for quite a bit of the equipment that we have, and certainly for the roofs within the district. So what that life cycle modeling does is it looks at what the present value would be to replace that piece of equipment, and then it looks at the manufacturer's recommendations for how long they would expect that piece of equipment to operate what's the useful life of that piece of equipment. And then we look at the year that that piece of equipment was commissioned and put into use. And based upon those numbers, we basically come up with when is it scheduled to be replaced. One of the things about scheduled equipment, it's really just a holding value to show you that we have equipment that is aging that could really start to create issues for us very quickly. An example is our roofs. We have roofs within the district that are at that point where they are at the end of their useful life cycle. While they are serving us well and we are moving beyond the useful life cycle within them, we don't have significant leaks or problems within the buildings because of those roofs, that condition can change very quickly. So we want you to be aware that that is something that we're monitoring, that we're watching, and we do place a value on that. So I think it's important to look at how we prioritize and break down these different needs that are up there to ensure that we've represented every potential cost that might be an exposure for the district, but also to show you where we think that most dollars will give us the best opportunities to make sure that we've got learning environments that are suitable in the district.
So currently, are any of these scheduled costs in our high priority list, or are those right now completely two separate because our scheduled issues are not necessarily high priority yet?
There may be
Some crossroads?
one or two items in the high priority list that are there now because they are, yes, past that useful life cycle and they are failing us.
Okay.
So it is very possible that would happen. But anything that's in the scheduled section, we would love to replace it, but there's really not a need at the moment to update that piece of equipment at this point because it's still serving us as we would expect. A great example is if you were to look at, we have air handlers at Alice Gustafson that are quite old, and servicing them is difficult. They have they lack service doors on them. We have to take complete panels off to work on them. But the equipment's serving us, so we're not going to recommend the replacement of that equipment as long as it's continuing to operate.
But we need to be aware that it could.
It could begin to fail, and we may need to move that into a category as it begins to fail.
So right now we have $3.5 million of high priority and life safety capital.
Yes, and to give you an example of what a high priority type item is, we have at both Hooverwood and Grace McLean, we have an issue where we're not able to maintain the boiler temps that are necessary for the boilers to operate through the period that we would expect. We should get 35 years out of those boilers. They require a certain water temp going through them so that you don't get what's called thermal shock on the boilers. But unfortunately, because of the piping configuration that's within the building, we have to send out the same water temp in the building as what's being maintained in the boilers. It's not a good engineering practice. We've actually moved away from this in a number of our buildings. As we have seen within the past 5 years, we've actually lost boilers because the piping configurations were not what is considered best practice to maintain the right boiler temps to preserve the longevity of the boiler and also satisfy the needs of the occupants. So for example, we must provide 160-degree water. That's the same temp in that boiler that goes out into the building. And when we have days that are much more mild, 30 to 50 degrees, and we're starting the boilers, we tend to bake out our occupants. It gets extremely hot inside the classrooms. It's not conducive for a learning environment that we would want to provide. So a high priority item right now for us is to look at the replacement of, or to modify the piping configuration within the boiler room so that we can provide what the boiler's needs are and also satisfy the needs of the occupants. So, just to give you an example of what those units might look like. Before I move away from the slide, any questions about the prioritization of?
What about roofs? Is that in high, the roofs that need to be replaced?
There is only one roof right now that I believe is in high right now. All the other roofs we've had surveyed and looked at. We continue to put preventative maintenance in them. They're all mostly in the scheduled value right now. So.
And it's a really detailed report with pictures and everything that you can look at.
I have that. I couldn't remember. I have that.
I'm sorry, I digress.
Okay. Next slide, please. Just to give you a little bit of a breakdown of what some of the systems are that we are looking at when you consider where some of these dollar figures come from. I've reported on this over the past few years, so you have some historical data there. But one of the primary objectives that we've been working towards is updating all the lighting systems. If you recall, last year at J.B. Nelson, we completely replaced all those lights. Those were T12 lights, inefficient lights. By federal mandate, the production of the T12 light is no longer in production. So we are running into issues with escalation of prices, availability of replacement parts. So we've been forced to retrofit those buildings with newer, updated lights, such as T8s. We still have the balance of Rotolo Middle School to be done. The entire school needs to be done. That actually represents about $1.2 million of that 1.7 that's up there. And then we actually still have a significant portion of the high school that has T12 lights within the building. I consider it's a fairly large building. We have done additions all around it, but there are still areas within the building that have been in existence for some time and just have not been touched for that particular system. So lighting upgrades is still an item that is on our radar and something that we want to make sure that we continue to make those necessary updates. You can see that because of the work that we did at J.B. Nelson last year, that did come down a little bit this year. Roof maintenance and replacement, you can see the value for that specifically up there. Slight escalation there. We have taken the roof actually at this building and put that into this year. It was actually a scheduled item that was further out on the replacement cycle, but for reasons I really can't explain, the roof is not wearing as well as we would like it to. Received a fair rating this year. We have had a couple of leaks, one or two. It's not catastrophic, but it's certainly something that is on our radar, so that has moved up. So you can see that value has increased in the roof replacements just a little bit. Capital equipment needs, you can see that's actually come down a little bit. Most of that money is due to the replacement of the chiller over at Else Gustafson. Parking lot maintenance, we have done quite a bit of work on parking lot maintenance, but one of the things that we are finding is, and you'll see in the report, that Grace McWayne's parking lot is really not holding up as well as we'd like it to. Last year, one of the items that we committed to doing was to seal coat that lot. On the fly, we had to make changes to that plan, and we actually wound up milling off sections of that parking lot, not all the way down to subsurface, but just a couple of inches of that material, milling it off and putting new pavement down, really as a Band-Aid to the number of potholes and things like that we were having in that lot. And total parking lot replacement is going to really be the thing that we're going to have to look at in the next couple of years. I attributed that to the significant grade change between the streets and the parking lot level and a lot of moisture in that particular area. So that's what the escalation is in that number there from the prior year. Health, life, safety. I took the $740,000 that was previously put into that category from the 2004 health, life, safety survey that was done. Completely wiped that slate clean and have put in the $308,000, which is representative of the 3 buildings that have been surveyed, and then we'll provide new updates after the balance of the buildings are surveyed this summer. So you'll see that number change from there. And then just to draw attention to the fact that we did not have the athletic fields or the maintenance shop previously budgeted for, scheduled into that. So those numbers are now representative within those systems that were in this report. Again, just to stress, this is not a funding request tonight. This is simply a report to tell you what's the current state of the buildings and grounds within the district, to let you know that these are the projects that we have out there. We will provide a recommendation in February, and I believe we will work in a workshop to review those for the recommendation of projects, which will be those high-value projects, or high-priority projects. So we'll bring those to you in February for your consideration. And I guess that is it. Any questions about the report?
I just want to thank you for working on this again and answering the questions today, and you and Chris on Monday. I had a lot of questions before, but I think we'll get a more detail, as you said, in the February day, and now help us with that also. Thank you for your work on this.
I just want to reiterate my comment that I made in the Finance Committee meeting today, how that I'm happy to see that the maintenance shop is on the schedule. Originally, that was, as I said earlier, it was built as a pole barn with its sole intent as cold storage to store buses. Back when we had our own busing, we would bus our own students to and from the buildings. And that I'm glad to see it's on the capital improvement plan, because we have like over 1 million square feet of buildings and 133 acres of land that we're now accountable for. And our staff, our maintenance staff, and that just do a wonderful job keeping up with that. And as we need to be good stewards of our financial stewards of our facilities that we have here, it's our kind of like our, I guess, our fiduciary responsibility to take care of these buildings and make them run as efficient as possible and make the best bang for our buck that we have here. And part of that is also having a shop that we can take care of that equipment too. I kind of joked it's no longer pickup truck and a set of tools and a lawnmower. I mean, we've got a lot. They've got a lot at stake, and these guys do a bang-up job, and I'm happy to see that's on the plan.
I have one question. Tony, the next slide, I think it is.
Current funding needs?
Nope. Current funding needs. I don't know where that was. Yep. Under shop there, the 130,100. Is that what's needed to bring it, let's say, to code, to fix it, to just the Band-Aid?
Yeah, so
let's say that's just the Band-Aid.
During a recent health life safety inspection by the ROE, we go through this annually with the ROE. Both fire officials and the ROE wrote us up for a number of violations. Right. That number represents repairs to all those violations. Those are things such as putting in a fire suppression system within the building, fire alarm,
whatever, right.
So
but
yeah, it represents repairing the violations that have been found.
Okay. So that's, okay. I just want to make sure. That's fine.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Pat.
Can I make a comment to kind of close that out?
Sure.
So this is I think the fourth year in a row that Pat has brought this report to the board. And I think it's a testament to the way he leads the department. And these numbers could be a lot bigger if it weren't for the preventative maintenance that he and the maintenance staff perform daily, weekly, monthly. They've got a tremendous database of the preventive maintenance schedule that we'd be happy to show at any one of our finance committee meetings. It's great the amount of information that are in there, where all of the work orders are tied to a specific project. It's really a data-driven department, and these guys do a great job.
Yeah, and they're
thank you.
Big group from our back there. So All right, we're going to move on to our action items. We have a handful of items for action tonight. The first one, 9.1, Dr. Newkirk is going to present the Online and Blended Learning Consortium.
Sure. In the spring of 2013, before the school board was the charter application for an online charter school, and the board deliberated along with 17 other districts about accepting or rejecting that charter application. All 18 districts, including Batavia, rejected that charter application. But as we listened to board member comments throughout the 18 districts, there were some common themes that started to emerge, including the desire to have options, including online options for our students. And really that desire is to make sure that our kids have access to the learning that they need. The other was a strong desire to have quality online options, and that desire to make sure that the students who would be attending in an online environment were also connected to their local schools. Those kind of common themes led district administrators to continue the conversation about the possibilities of online and blended learning, and throughout that spring and summer, districts who were interested continued the conversation, and this fall we really launched a process with the board's permission with 4 other school districts, including Caneland, Indian Prairie, Wheaton District 200, and Naperville 203. And it was really a joint exploration of the possibilities of online and blended learning. There was a scope of our work, and we did work with Evergreen Consulting Group, who does national consulting, setting up online and blended consortiums. There are currently, according to the Keeping Pace report, about 75 such consortiums throughout the country where school districts are providing some online services to their students. As we worked through that process, the result was the strategic plan that you see attached to your information tonight. And that strategic plan lays out many of the things that not only the 5 districts believe, but also a path forward in accomplishing the goal of having online offerings ready for our students in a pretty quick timeline of August 2014, so for the next school year. Batavia's board is the last of the 5 districts to consider moving into phase 2, which would be the implementation phase, where technology and other issues would be discussed to launch the 10 classes in August 2014. I have to say, personally, I gained a greater knowledge through that process of working with these districts of the options that are out there for our students and some of the benefits that can happen. And really, Illinois is fairly sheltered from some online options. When you look at the nation as a whole, 310,000 students nationwide access their education completely online, which to me was kind of a startling figure. And this is a reality for many of our students going into the post-secondary as well. About 36% of college students last year took at least one online course as a part of their coursework. So this is a reality that we're preparing our students for and something that has great promise in the field of education. But I've laid out the information before you in terms of the strategic plan and the proposal to move into phase 2, and I would be happy to answer any of your questions.
Why did Caneland drop out the cost?
The Caneland dropped out because they didn't believe it. I believe they had a 5-2 vote, so there was a desire to move forward, but the costs did get in their way.
I think the cost to me was very high for some of the items with the group and all that. But before I say anything more, I wanted to thank you and Tony for working on this and getting the extra knowledge, because I do think, and I agree with you, that some form of online that we can offer would be beneficial to our students. I think what I was disappointed in, and I brought this up at one meeting, was we have the block schedule, but then I learned a little bit more from talking to you yesterday about that this can go a little bit longer. But I was looking at it more as more of like foreign type classes or technical classes, not the basic algebra class that we already have or something like that, or maybe advanced AP classes or something out there that we really don't have or don't have the number of students to fill up one class that we could join. But I think we could do that ourselves without having an extra administrative cost or anything, because with that cost right now, to me, that's another teacher and a half or whatever, and bring down a class size or something. That's how I looked at it right now. So, I mean, I think when we look at this, it also made me look at the policy that we talked about. So there's a lot of, I know we can discuss this at another time during policy and all that, but get the information out. I think it's a great starting point, and I think now with Brad and Tony, more knowledge on this can help us out with it, and maybe we can go a different route without having a management company type thing to take charge of it, where we can keep our money, and if we have to pay for some classes or maybe charge a little bit for a course class. But that's going to be my direction on how I'm going to vote on this. I'm not going to vote to go any further with this at this time. So I know there's a lot of other questions I can have, but I'll save it to another time. Thank you.
Just the course selection, and those were kind of placeholder courses that is not what the consortium is 100% on. But as we talked about what the needs of the districts were, was really, if you're looking at an August 2014 launch of an online courses, it couldn't be something that was so rare that you not only had to learn how to do that and who would do that, but then how to translate that to that online environment. So we were looking for courses that were common amongst the district, but that we could also work to translate into that online environment. You can't just pick up a bricks and mortar course and move that online. You have to really translate that for the online environment to make that experience for the students beneficial.
And I know there's a reason behind it, but one thing that kind of surprised me is that based on population and whatnot, is kind of how you figured out our percent of say membership, if you want to use that term for layman's terms, into the consortium. But then I guess once I look at it more like an online, and I know some of them are a blended type learning, but yet with that, then we also have a limited number of seats available. Well, I guess I'm having a little trouble with that because this doesn't have any seats, and you could have as many as you want, and so that limited basis was kind of what I was a little, didn't really, I guess I'm asking, was it more based on initial startup, step up, see how everybody handles it so that perhaps one district doesn't dominate it with maybe they already have that momentum going and it would overwhelm the whole thing, or I guess, why was that limit there?
Right, part of it is manageable to launch in August 2014, but you'll see in the strategic plan that governance and access are two different processes. So governance would be not a proportional basis where the district with the largest number of students would have the most say, but governance, you're kind of buying in to that governance structure with each member district having a vote in the direction of the consortium. The access would be proportional in the courses that were launched. And you can see that Batavia's allocation would be 52 students, 26 per semester for the different courses.
Is this program able to be extended into like summer school courses?
There was lots of talk. There were no definite plans, but that was definitely a need by the consortium members, was to see how this could also benefit kids during extending the school year time.
What happens if we didn't have the seats filled?
We would still pay for the seat.
Another question?
Would we be able to offer up that seat if we didn't fill that class with our head count to another school district if they were able to use it?
You can see there's a little bit of a caveat in there about selling seats, and there wasn't going to be in the first year of selling back seats to the consortium, but on some kind of trading system yet to be determined. So if you didn't have enough kids for this class, but you had more, there was going to be some kind of mechanism that's yet to be determined.
Does administration think we'll fill that many seats?
I just have to go on some of our past practices. So we do have online environments in which we're teaching in our current high school, and some of those are for credit recovery, and students are placed there, and then others are optional. We do run an online consumer education course, and we would offer as many sections as possible. The teacher does a great job of facilitating that course online, and it does meet the need of some students, but what we saw was that course sizes ranged from about 25 to 52 students. And if you look at every kid, every senior needs to take consumer education, that's 500, and 25 to 50 are taking or opting for the online environment.
10%. Well, I have personally some reservations about the cost, but I guess first I'll ask if we want to make a motion.
I have one question, and I spoke to Chris about this earlier today, and I just wanted to clarify this, or maybe you could address this situation, that I was concerned about the cost that we incurred defending the district against K-12 this past year. And if we don't go along with this consortium, are we opening ourselves up to them coming back? And
So are you asking, is an online blended program a good defense against a potential K-12?
Well, yeah, or it doesn't get, I don't,
There would
from what
be
I
nothing that
understood,
would-
there's no guarantee anyway.
Exactly. There would be nothing that would prevent
So-
a similar charter school from coming and proposing to open a virtual charter school within our district. Having our own might strengthen our case if we deny it and they went to appeal to the State Charter School Commission. It could strengthen our case that we already have these opportunities for students and there may not be an additional need. But like you said, it's by no means a guarantee.
Because we did spend a fair chunk of change.
Yeah, it was $21,000, almost $22,000 in legal expenses.
But anyway, so I'm back to my question of, does anyone wish to make a motion to accept Dr. Newkirk's recommendation? Okay. I do think at this time we're all expressing a desire to have this opportunity, but I do think that we all have some concerns about the price tag. So I would entertain a motion to deny phase 2, but that we could give the
How much time do we
administration.
have?
Time for what?
They've, phase 2, the 3-member districts so far are already moving on to phase 2.
It's now.
We are the last
Right.
board to consider this.
Right.
Or you are the last board.
It's now.
Is there a drop dead date for us to give our final answer?
They're going to want a decision as soon as possible because they may need to readjust, what's contained in the strategic plan moving forward based on if Batavia doesn't move forward, 2 districts of the 5 not moving on. So I would want to say that we would want to give them as much notice as possible so that they can continue their work.
So without directing us, you're saying we should make a decision tonight?
I think that would be respectful of those districts.
Okay.
How does the Caneland dropping out affect our percent of ownership in the group?
That they were waiting till we finished our deliberations on this before discussing that, but they may have to readjust the financials within it, but it would increase our proportional. There's a small piece of that that's proportional, and with 4 instead of 5 districts, that would, I would guess, go up.
Is there any chance they'll add a 5th district?
What's that?
Is there any chance they'll add a 5th district?
As of our last conversation, there was not a plan to add a 5th district or any other districts.
Do you think this is inevitable?
I believe that we do need to provide online and blended learning opportunities for our students. I believe this is something that will become best practice. I think it's a process, though, to change from traditional bricks and mortar to the online environment. And that takes a lot of PD and time and really looking at the way that kids want to learn. So I do believe that's where we're headed. It's up to the board whether this is the direction right now.
What is your opinion?
My opinion is that we do need to move forward with something if the expenditures are too great. And, I think I tried to be very clear that I understand there are benefits to moving forward with the consortium, but there are also costs. And when you look at the cost, they do impact a school district Batavia size a little bit more than they would a larger district. So if you look at the 52 seats that we would have in the first year and you do some simple math, you could see that those seats are very expensive. So if you're looking for a return on investment in year 1, this is probably not the direction to head. But if you're looking for long-term return on investment and moving in this direction, then there are definitely beneficial aspects to the consortium.
Have we heard a lot of need for it, and from parents and the community? Has anybody approached the district about what's going on with online learning?
No.
Knocking down the door, wondering what's happening?
I think when we had the virtual charter,
Right.
there were some parents, not very many, that came and said that they wanted that option for their student.
Okay.
And I think there's a difference probably in parents' eyes between online schooling and then blended learning. And the blended learning really happens in many of our classrooms right now. Right now we have students who are engaged with Alex Math for 20 minutes as a part of their math class to remediate and boost their math skills, and we see great improvements. Those kids are learning in a blended environment where some of their curriculum is delivered online. Whether it's interacting with the teacher or interacting with a program, they're really learning, and some of them quite well, in a blended environment. Sometimes it's difficult to see, because this is not the way that we were educated, the totally online piece. But there are students out there and families out there where this is an option that they would like to explore. It's about finding that
Have
balance.
you found working with these other districts, are we equal to them since we're so much smaller? I mean, these are good, I personally think, but I'm also a product of 203, these are excellent districts to work with. So I don't think you automatically shut the door on it because it's expensive in the first year. I think this is something you got to look at over the course of time. And anything you're going to do by yourself is going to cost a lot more than $96,000.
Is that our only option, is to do it by ourselves, or do you see partnering potentially if we tried other options?
I mean, I do think there are other options out there in terms of partnering with other districts. Just in our initial discussions with the 5-member districts, we would all receive phone calls from other districts interested in the work that we were doing. So I think there's interest in, all of the data that we get as curriculum directors show us this is kind of the future direction for learning. So I think there are other partnership opportunities if we decide not to go with this one.
So it kind of boils down to, it seems like 3 options. One is we vote yes to move forward with the consortium because we value online blended learning. 2 is we value online blended learning. We don't want to move forward with the consortium, but we direct administration to pursue other avenues. And 3 is we don't value online blended learning, and we say we don't want any more of this at all. So that's the choice that we're at tonight.
One more question also.
You can have more than one.
All right, well, I only have one for now. Are other districts able to join this consortium, or is it just going to be closed to our districts only? Like, can we have a membership to come in, like if Geneva wanted to join our consortium because they saw that we're doing good things and it's been a success for us? I mean, can they join it to expand this and also have shared costs and such?
At this time, there was no mechanism for other districts to join the consortium.
Oh, I thought you could.
But that was definitely something that was going to be a part of future discussions and planning.
Oh, so there's a chance that we could choose to not move forward, but then have a second opportunity to join in the work that they're doing at some later date when it's more defined.
I can guarantee you it'll be more than $96,000 the second time you try to join because there's going to be a premium for not.
See, that's what I'm afraid. If you don't get in on the ground floor, it's going to cost you a lot more.
That's just the first year's cost. Are there any projections of what it will cost?
I would predict pretty similar costs from year to year as it expands. Our staffing costs would go up as the online sections that we offered expanded. But I would see the cost that you see in the strategic plan, we would not have the consulting fees, but many of the costs I would see rolling forward year to year.
Are there any savings actualized on our end then to offset those costs? Like lower class sizes per se, or?
No, because this is really kind of replacing a bricks and mortar classroom with this online environment. So we're not putting 400 students in this environment. The student is managing what a teacher manages in their normal classroom. I believe it's 26.
So you're adding a class.
I guess I was kind of also hoping, as John had said, that with those larger districts involved in it and the resources that they had, that we would have, it would help expand our curriculum and offer things that maybe we, as a smaller district, couldn't handle. So I think in the future it will do that. That's the dilemma. But yet, it's kind of I equate it to, it's an expensive membership to join the country club. And, this is a tough one.
I'm torn.
Someone has to step up and make a motion. or something. Give me direction on where you want to go
I
with
want
this.
to think for a minute.
Okay.
And it's my opinion, I think that the inevitability of this type of program being more widespread is inevitable. I mean, it's going to come to this as technology advances, and how we're embracing technology as a district as well by already, doing the Chromebook rollouts and using a lot of blended learning in our classrooms. I mean, I shy away from the cost as well because I want to be prudent with our citizens' tax dollars, but I think also it's a large number to us now because it's a significant step. So we have to respect the largeness of taking
But we have
this
no
endeavor.
guarantee this is going to work in the way that we want it to.
There's also no guarantee that we can't see huge successes from it as well.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, so that's where I'm at. That's the
Well,
difficulty.
If it's the board's direction to plan to fail on it, then we're going to fail to plan on it.
$300,000 a year,
But that's not our only option, is hoping that we can join them later. I mean.
No.
That's not,
but
I mean,
doing it
we're
on
so
our
early in the
own.
process.
Brad, could we do this if we got other districts involved without another management type company that we are also going to be giving money to? Could we do it within ourselves with our administrators that we have? Somehow that the money is staying within that area. I mean, I don't want to rush into this. I can understand.
They're asking them to run another huge.
Well, it's almost like, but taking the money to me on this is we're opening up another school district, and there's an administrative cost to that.
Yeah,
I mean.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
So you take something off somebody's plate and let them, and so on. I'm just asking the question. I mean, I'm for talking about it some more and so that, but right now, the money and what I saw going in, I can understand you suggesting and the idea of starting at the ground level at the beginning and moving up to the different classes and all that. That's not how I was seeing this, and I agree with you, Sue. I don't think it would be a guarantee to stop the charter school system, because they're going to, as soon as April comes, they're going to be pushing to get back in the door again.
I think it's a significant defense.
See, so
I think it's a good defense.
And I don't think they're going to come knocking on doors where there's already work being done. They're going to go knock on the doors where there's nothing being done.
It's not worth it.
I'm for the online, but for this part right now, no, I'm not.
Okay, does someone want to make an?
I'll move to accept the proposal to move to phase 2 of the consortium.
Second.
Okay, what do we do?
Okay, so.
What do we do? We don't know.
So
We have to vote on that.
Yeah. Impastano made a motion to accept.
Recommend to continue phase 2?
Yeah. Stoop seconded.
Okay, all right.
Any further questions or discussion?
Yes, question. Just so make sure I got my vote right. A yes vote means we're going to go forward, and a no vote means we're not going forward.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Just want to make sure. Okay.
Well, we're going forward in a different direction. We always move forward. Always going.
Right.
I gotta take one thing at a time.
Okay. Just forward, a different fork in the road there, John.
Any other questions, discussion? All right.
I had to throw the humor in there.
Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Okay, Blakely?
I have to give my answer?
You can pass, and she can come back to you.
No, I haven't. No.
No? Okay. Gaspar?
No.
Hodge?
No.
Impastano?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Locke?
Would you like to pass and come back?
Sure, pass.
You can abstain.
I was just reading, I was just reading my Robert's rules. Apparently, you can pass and have a few more minutes to think.
Okay.
Pass and then come back.
Okay, Stoops?
Yes.
Dremel?
Am I not supposed to vote last, especially in a potential tie vote?
Okay.
Can I read your mind?
Well, you can vote yes, and then I have to actually make the decision.
You make the decision.
Better.
Yeah, but, I'm so
I
torn.
think it's a testament to the character of our board that we are so grappling to do the right thing there.
I am. I really want to do the right thing, and I really don't want to spend the money. I really am torn. I am so torn.
Nothing's free.
Nothing's free. I think it is so important, the direction we go. I wish I could predict the future. Truly. Because I think it's important that we do some sort of online blended learning. I don't want to spend the money though. But we're going to have to at some point.
More.
And it's going to be, I'm going to vote yes and leave it for you. And I think I know what you're going to say, so.
I vote no.
Thank you.
Are you a no?
I'm a no.
Okay.
So now my next question is, do we wish to give the administration direction to move forward on this topic in another way?
Yes. Absolutely.
And do we, is that even something that needs a motion if we're just giving direction?
No, it's direction, so
Yeah,
you
so-
can get consensus, though.
All right.
Would that go down to policy committee, or would that go into a whole type thing? That
whole?
we're just a whole committee for discussion and all that, so that we're at least all going to be kind of, or get what everybody's thinking then?
My assumption, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we are giving administration direction, that we would then be regularly getting reports and getting our feedback before more money is spent and so forth. So it would be a partnership where I'm assuming Dr. Newkirk would be heading this up, potentially with Mr. Inglesi, and they would be doing the work and reporting back to us regularly, getting our input as this process moves forward. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. I don't want it
Is
to.
that correct how that process would probably work? You would be doing the work, reporting back to us on a regular basis? Okay.
Well, I think it's...
Are you comfortable with us giving that direction before I give
Yes,
that
I mean,
direction?
in the past, if there's a timeline that the board is on where they want to know by this date what the plan is, or have a draft plan, or that is also direction that you can give the administration, but I will work quickly to come up with a plan B.
Okay.
I think it's important to note that I would think the board is unanimous on, we need this blended online type of learning. But I guess, we just, now it's, what other avenues do we have? And I mean, I know John kind of made the comment, he doesn't want it to die here.
Right.
I mean,
So let's take a consensus that we want to give administration direction to move forward on a plan B. Start with Melanie. Yes?
Yes.
Jason? Sue? Greg? Dana?
Yes.
John? Okay, we just put a big job on your plate. Dr. Newkirk, I have confidence you are the man for the job. Whew. That was kind of exciting.
It was.
Okay, now we're going to move on. We have more action items. Dr. Hitchens is going to talk about policy.
Sure. The board has a subcommittee. It's the policy committee, a committee of the whole. It meets the Wednesday before every, it normally meets the Wednesday before every board meeting. And so we review policies. This board takes action through the policies that they set. And so for this particular board meeting, there were going to be a couple that were in the consent agenda, and then we were going to talk about one as a discussion. So we decided to just put it as one action item. So I'll be summarizing the policy committee meeting from last Wednesday. You could see in the board docs that you have a couple recommendations from the policy committee. We talked about the guidance and counseling policy, policy 6270, which you've seen. And this is the second, at least the second time you're seeing that. And we would, this would be the time that you would adopt that. Blended in online learning, the policy that governs blended and online learning, the policy that allows us to have this type of learning environment in our district you've seen that policy quite a few times, and it is really taking the law and turning it into policy. And so we've had our legal counsel look at that. You've seen it a couple of times. We're ready to adopt that one. It just gives general direction, nothing specific, but it allows for the things like an online environment, a blended environment. You're seeing something for the first time, which is the curriculum development and instructional resources policy. So we'd like your feedback on that. If you have any comments, you could say them tonight, or you can give them to your policy representatives, who are Sue and John. Also at the policy meeting, we talked about the Citizens Advisory Committee discussion that we had on January 21st. It was a great discussion. All the feedback was positive. I know Nicole Prentice she's in the audience, and she was one of our panelists. We had 13 panelists that had a discussion. They did some research ahead of time. They looked at the survey results from the community, from the parents, and they had a great discussion. It lasted almost 2 hours on around 3 questions. The first question is, what social and emotional competencies do we want our students to have? The second question that we asked them to reflect on was, what role should the parents, the students, the teachers, and the community have in the social emotional development of the students? And then the third question that they talked about was the programming piece of it. What should the curriculum program experiences look like for students? And at that meeting, we asked people to chime in and give us their comments as well. So the audience was able to comment, and they also gave us questions. So we put together a board focus, just a short summary of that night, and answered some of the questions that people left for us. One of the biggest questions was, what are the next steps? And so the next steps would be, we put out that one communication. Another step that's very important would be the report to the community. So we'll summarize the discussion. We're looking for themes for each of the questions. And some of the questions, it was very easy to pick out themes. For example, the first question that we asked the panel, and we asked the parents, what social emotional competencies are important? And during the discussion, we found out that self-reliance, decision-making, persistence, or grit, we had a conversation about grit. Those are all things that are important in school and in life. And we had a discussion about the survey results, where some people were talking about the role of the school versus the role of the parents. But when we broke it down into those specific skills, like persistence and problem solving, we think that that was more universal, that people are saying, yes, those are things that are important to teach. But there might be some misunderstanding about what social emotional competencies are, and they're really not about teaching morals and values. We're teaching skills that are helping students to be successful. So that was a big part of the discussion. And then we talked about, having common vocabulary among all the staff as far as some of those skills that we would be teaching. So the next important step would be we're going to write a report that summarizes the feedback from the survey, the discussion, and the other feedback that was left. So the whole community will see that report. The policy committee will review it and give it the final edits, and we'll circle back to the committee as well and ask them to read over the report to make sure we accurately depicted their viewpoints. Part of that report will be policy recommendations. So we started talking about that. How does our policy reflect what people were saying in the discussion and the comments? So the part of the report will be a recommendation. These are recommended changes to the policy. But of course, the board will have to adopt that. So that'll be February and March, where we talk about the implications to policy. And then the real work begins with the staff taking that policy, which is board direction, and actually talking about how that impacts practices, curriculum, programs, experiences for students. So that would start happening as soon as the new policy was adopted. Questions or comments about the social emotional learning or other policy pieces that I just rambled on about?
The one thing on the and I think it's in my briefcase, on the bottom portion of the social and emotional, there were seven areas, and that's one of the directions we got at policy, was to go back and look at the big picture and see what maybe should be tweaked or something like that. So that's the next job for us is to come back and maybe you guys can look at that, see if there's anything on there that you don't like or something should be worded different or changed, and then we can discuss that. I do like, and Lisa and I talked about it, that I do like the part that once it gets written up, it kind of goes back to the committee again, because the committee, I think they did a great job, and for some of them it took, I thought the discussion was fantastic. I think it got started with Lisa and Brad Wright, and then the rest of them took over, and that's how it should have been then. But now I think they should get there, look at it, see if things should be tweaked instead of us, and then come back and so on. But I just want you guys on the bottom part to look at that and let us know if there's anything. I've been looking at it too, but give us some input on how you guys are thinking going that route also. So on that part, I have nothing else on that part. So.
And Tina was a panelist, I forgot to mention that.
Yes.
So Tina got to be a panelist and a board member that night.
Right?
665. Yeah, both sides.
Okay. Any other comments about the SEL or any of the other policies?
I do on the online blended. And again, it was clarified again after the board policy and yesterday and so on with, it was the law. And there are a lot of things that were taken out, tweaked out of it. But this is what I think is going to be what's going to drive us for what we're going to do. That's why I think, I was hesitant on that besides the money issue, but I think we can do something ourselves too if we talk to other districts and maybe put it in there, see really what direction we want to go. So I'm just glad for this, and I'm just wanted to make sure 6.27. I really wanted to thank Brad for talking and setting up some training with the counselors. The collaboration of getting that all together for the policy, and that basically from the discussion that a lot of that did come from the counselors themselves. So that is something that it was a good collaboration of working together, coming up with something that is going to be beneficial to everyone. So I do thank you for all that hard work on that.
Thank you.
And that's all my questions on any of that, because I think it's been going good. Well.
Anyone else have questions or comments? Dr. Hitchens, can you review your recommendations?
Yeah, so at the policy committee, our recommendations are that the board vote on the second reading and adoption of the guidance and counseling policy 6270, the blended and online learning policy 6185, and I would entertain that they hold a first reading of 640 curriculum development and instructional resources.
Good. Do I have a motion to accept the recommendations of the policy committee?
So moved.
Moved by Gasper. Second by Locke. Kathy, I'm sorry. Any other final questions or discussion? Kathy, would you call the roll?
Blakely.
She momentarily excused
Oh, I
herself.
didn't leave. Okay. Gaspar?
Yes.
Hold on, I gotta dot this one. Okay, Hodge?
Yes.
Impastato?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Dremel?
Yes.
I'm gonna go back to Blakely?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to bond refunding. Dr. Mann.
Yes, this will be the third time in the past week that we've discussed the opportunity to refund some of our 2008 series bonds. We began this talk back in December with an overview. We set up a special meeting last Tuesday to specifically talk about this refunding opportunity. Today at Finance Committee, we reviewed the resolution and escrow agreement. And to make sure that all the board members understand, we did get some additional information after last week's Finance Committee that we may be able to actually repurchase some of the 2008 series bonds rather than refund. So there have been 2 paragraphs entered into the resolution. The resolution in board docs is accurate with what we need, but it did change from what we posted originally on Friday. There's a red line copy in front of Kathy Dremel if you want to see exactly where the changes were. is mostly around pages 19 and 24, simply to add in the option for us to repurchase bonds, which should increase the savings over refunding. So this is an opportunity to save approximately $2.4 million of our overall debt service through the life of the 2008 series bonds. That's a present value savings of about 7.8% using current market conditions. This resolution is a parameters resolution where you are authorizing both the president of the board and myself to execute all of the closing documents if the market conditions would produce a present value savings of over 5%, which currently they do. So if these market conditions hold, we will start to prepare those documents rather quickly. If we can actually execute them before March 1st and get them filed with the county clerk, they would affect this year's tax extension, and it would drop the bond and interest taxes by about $263,000. So I would entertain any further questions that you have over this, but I would ask for your approval.
The only question I'm going to have, and I probably should have asked it this afternoon, was when you did do that extra paragraph or so on in there, who approved it? Did our lawyers? To make sure the wording is correct?
We use bond counsel, Chapman & Cutler, which is a very well-respected firm throughout the nation, but very highly here in the state of Illinois. Pardon me?
They are premier bond counsel nationwide.
Yes.
I just want to make sure the wording's right. I mean, I don't understand it, so I mean...
As soon as we identified that there could be a repurchase option, they actually emailed us and said, we need to add these 2 paragraphs into your resolution, and they sent us the red line copy of all of the aspects that they changed.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
So for anyone who wasn't at finance, the point of this is it's just one more avenue of opportunity to increase our savings on our bond refinance. So we may not, but it allows us the flexibility to do that, but only within the parameters that we've set. Any further questions? Would you like to comment now?
Yeah, whenever you want me to.
You may comment now.
Okay. I'm excited about this, and we've gone through this process and reviewed our bonding situation. Well, it's actually over and over. We continually do it, but yet for the past 3 years we've been able to do, I'd like to throw history in it too, we were able to save, we did it twice with Illinois GO bonds, general obligation bonds, and at that time, each time I think 1 to 1.2 million we were able to save. And now with this, the 2.6, it's some substantial coin that we're able to look and save the district. So I want to commend the Finance Committee, Chris, and your staff, and also thank the people over at PMA, Bob Lewis, and that we've been able to continually look, and the market's such that we can better ourselves financially, save some money in the long run, and still be, again, good stewards to our stakeholders.
Well, I should not have let you comment yet because we have not actually made a motion to accept Dr.
I'm just saying, so I will.
Recommendations, if you'd like to make that motion.
So I am going to propose we pass this resolution, providing the issuance of these.
Moved by Hodge, do I have a second? Second by Gasper. Kathy, will you call the roll? Thank you, guys. Those are nice comments.
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Masato.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Dremmel.
Yes. Motion passes.
And as directed by bond counsel, they had us list these as 2 separate agenda items. So now that you have authorized the issuance of bonds when the parameters are met, you also need to take action to establish an escrow agreement. So that is the second action item. This simply allows us to, and defines the terms in which we set up the escrow in which we will deposit the bond proceeds until the call date in 2016.
Any questions about that?
IRS regulations, they have to be separate.
Do I have a motion? I mean, yeah. Getting tired.
I will move to
Accept Dr. Mond's recommendation.
Dr. Mond's resolution.
Second.
Moved by Hodge, second by Gaspar. Kathy, would you call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Masato. Yes. Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Dremmel.
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
That concludes our action items on our agenda. We will now move to administration comments.
I just want to say that I'm so much looking forward to welcoming the students and staff back tomorrow, if all goes well tonight. If you've missed them and it's been quiet here without you. That's it.
All right, we'll move on to board comments. We'll start down with Melanie if you'd like to comment. We'll start at this end and move down.
I don't have any comments.
I really don't have any comments either today.
Quiet, thank you.
I guess I'll just thank Chris for all his hard work on the bond refinancing and Brad for all your work on the online consortium. Obviously, I was torn. That was a difficult vote. And I just would urge you to continue to look for solutions. And obviously, it's the way we're going to be moving. And so we'll find some kind of solution. So thank you for your work on that. And I do also look forward to the students returning.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of us here look forward to that. So.
Greg.
I've commented.
Tina.
I don't have any comments.
John.
Save all the time for me.
Yeah.
Yep, we all gave you our 3 minutes, John.
Well, I won't disappoint.
I agree with that.
I just wanted to say I attended the Jared Payton motivational speak, and I wanted to thank everyone that got it together. It was well done, and I thought it attended pretty well. My wife and I attended our last open house for the district, but I was always sad that I always would hope more parents would be at the open houses. Even in the fall or the spring, it's very disappointing at times, especially once you get out of the grade school and you get to the middle school, and when you get to the high school, it really drops down. But we always attended them, so that was our last one. Dominic replaced a cappella group with another one, and it was, if anybody went, it was phenomenal. Another great job. I wanted to thank Chris again for all the work on the workshop, the special workshop and everything. It's a lot of work, and we're getting a little bit better at understanding this. I wanted to thank all the parties invited to the social emotional discussion panel. That was, I think, another eye-opener. Again, understanding what it is and the misconception on some things. And I wanted to thank Jake, but of course he's resting. Others know, because he did a great job, and that's hard. And everybody else. But I do believe, I think it was Ruth who said, let's take baby steps, let's get it right, and let's go on. I went to the Greek mythology Olympiaganza with the students in the black box, and it was funny. It was they did a great job again, and sold out performances. So very good. Thank everybody here at RJAC. I wanted to thank the maintenance crew for all this snow stuff and keeping the buildings in shape on those days and everything else you guys do. And then I just got a little humor here. On Saturday, I had coffee with Greg, and just to discuss things, I try to meet with people to get a take on things. Well, as we were talking about 20 minutes into the discussion, his phone went off, his text, and I told him, go ahead and answer, because I don't care, you know. And he looked at it, and it was from his wife wishing him a happy birthday. And I kind of just looked at him, and I said, is it today, Saturday? Because his wife was gone over the weekend, so maybe he forgot. And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, it's mine also. Now, what were the odds of that happening right there? And then I told him I had a free muffin from Panera because I had the Panera card, and he got upset because he doesn't have a Panera card. So he didn't get one. But it was just kind of humorous that that's what happened that day, that we both found out. I have a couple years on him, though. But
I'm getting there. I'm working on it.
He's working on it. But, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
That was pretty cool.
I'm done.
I thought he was pulling my leg. But
No, I wasn't.
no, he wasn't.
I would like to close by saying it always really impresses me the way that we can talk and disagree and grapple with things, and that you guys are incredibly gracious and smart and hardworking, and I am really, really honored that you guys are my board. I read terrible stories in the paper about other boards, and every day I think, I'm so glad we have the board that we have. So I just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you, and on that note, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gaspar, second by Stoops. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.